Today on the Ferment Station, let's talk about cider, cyser, and shushen. Welcome to the Ferment Station. This is the podcast for the City Steading Brews YouTube channel. I'm Brian.
I'm Derica.
Let's get to it. Okay, so today we're talking about cider versus cyser versus shushen, which on the surface you might think that shushen and cyser are the same thing.
But they're not.
Not exactly, no. So should we do definitions first?
Let's do definitions first. And this is going to...
It's going to piss some people off.
Yep.
It just always does.
It always does, because people get a little persnickety about their apple-based beverages.
Yeah. Okay. We've had the conversation before, but I just know somebody's going to do it again. In the U.S., alcoholic apple juice is called hard cider. In many other places, it's just called cider. We're going to use the word cider to represent the alcoholic beverage today, because that's what we're talking about, is the alcoholic beverage, which is basically just fermented apple juice, or in the US, it could be fermented apple juice or fermented apple cider, the non-alcoholic. See, it gets confusing, and this is why I don't like this stuff, the naming stuff. Anyway.
Basically, in cider, regardless of what adjective or preference you put before it or after it, doesn't matter, is fermented apple. So the fermentable sugars that are coming from it are from the apples.
Right.
Sometimes to bump up the ABV, sugar may be added, but typically it's just apples.
But I'm going to argue that once you bump up the ABV too much, now you've made apple wine, which is good, just not cider anymore.
And we weren't including it in this particular talk.
Yeah, that's not part of this. But anyway,
so that's cider.
Cider.
So next up is cyser. And so this is CYSER. And this is an apple-based beverage with honey. So the fermentable sugars are coming both from the honey and the apple, and they are fermented together to create a beverage called a cyzer.
Now, there's a lot of discussion as to whether it's a mead or a cider, depending on how much honey you have in it. Now, a cyser gets around that, I think, just because it's just a mixture of apple and honey fermented together. That's the secret. Fermented together. That is what is important. In other words, if you just took apple juice, fermented it, and then added honey to sweeten it, it's not a cyser. Technically speaking, just like if you made a mead and then added apple juice to it to sweeten it, it's technically not a cyser either. Though I probably wouldn't get too upset with you if you really called it that. I mean, come on, it just gets a little bit silly. So we're trying to avoid the name game thing again, but it is an important thing. And the only reason why we use the names at all and give any kind of definitions and rules is to differentiate one product from another. That's the only reason. There are different laws that have different things about it, but that's the only reason why we really even worry about it at all. So the important thing to me in a cyser is that it's apple and honey fermented together.
As Brian was stating, it does tend to fall under the roadmap O mead as a subset of mead because you are fermenting honey.
Right. To some people, it's not mead. It's cyser. It's a different thing. And I can appreciate that too. But to me,
we're just repeating ourselves, but I
still think it's a mead.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Finally comes up shushen. Now, shushen is kind of a hybrid of cider and cyser based on how the steps go.
Right. And let me explain something. This is where it gets interesting. A shushen starts out as an apple cider, a hard cider, alcoholic cider, whatever you want to say. And then you add honey in step feeding to ferment it further, which breaks the definition of cyser right there, because my definition was apple and honey fermented together. Now you might think, how does that even make a difference? Well, I'm here to tell you it does.
It does a lot. And I was actually pleasantly surprised by how different it came out.
And I think here's why. When you ferment them all together, you have all the sugars and all the stuff that's in both coming together at the same time, getting fermented out. Now that would make the malic acid and things like that lower because it's now split between the honey and the apple. But when you ferment just apple alone, now all the malic acid, that's just one of the ingredients that's in apples that's not in honey, stays. And then you're adding honey to it, fermenting the honey in what's now fermented apples. where before it's all a jumble together. So I think that subtle difference actually makes a huge difference. And it actually makes me want to try things a little differently with some of the fruit meads that we would make and even spice meads that we would make, because it's almost like you make a substrate that you then ferment further,
right,
rather than making one base that's mixed.
It might just be a play of the palate, but I felt like the apple notes were more appley and the honey notes were more honey. Mm-hmm. And together they create this beautiful thing. Yeah. Whereas when we just fermented it all together,
it seemed like a muddled blend.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's bad.
It's a different thing.
Yeah, it just tasted different. It could also be, because generally speaking, when you make a shushen, you're using buckwheat honey, which has a unique and sometimes strong flavor profile. Now, just remember, buckwheat honey from this year versus last year, or this place versus that place, is going to taste completely different. So the one that we had was very earthy and strong.
Yeah.
That may have a huge impact on the way shushen comes out as well.
Right. And up front, I felt like it was going to have a negative impact on my enjoyment of the final beverage.
I expected it to not be great.
It did not.
No, it was actually really good. So I would say, like, cider is almost the outlier here, because really what we're comparing is Cyser and shushen. But if you took a cider and you added honey to it, you're technically making a shushen. Unless you're not using buckwheat honey.
And you're not fermenting it.
But what if you took an apple cider and then you added like wildflower honey to it and fermented it afterwards? Shushen style.
I don't know. And this is part of the reason why we're having this discussion is because
there was some confusion.
Our recent attempt of making shushen, which was, I feel,
it was great,
very successful, really,
right over there,
really started to make us think more about the process and the steps that we're doing things, because it just seemed logical that, if you ferment apples and then you ferment honey, it doesn't matter if you're fermenting together or separately. If they're in the same vessel, it's going to be the same thing, right? Well, shushen said, nope.
Yeah, and you know what? We've experienced this already. Even though we did a test years ago where we put fruit in during primary, fruit in after fermentation was done, and then fruit in both. And we didn't feel that there was a detectable difference. Now, it could have been that exact test. It also could have been, it was a few years ago. We've learned a little bit since then, at least I like to think we have. So there's a lot of variables there. And I think we might have to do that test again soon.
I think so too.
But it's the same concept, just flipped the other way. We have seen recently where making a mead and putting fruit in it, it tasted different than in times past when we've done that with all-in-one. Like, for instance, my Viking blood. The first time we made Viking blood, I did the cherries and the honey all together, and it came out fine. The next time we made it, it was mead that we added cherries to. I'm pretty sure. We've done it a couple times. By the way, I'm working on Viking's Blood 2026 to be coming out sometime in 2026. It's
going to have a little something extra. Yeah. It happens to be sitting right over here.
Yeah, that we're not going to tell you. Spoilers. Spoilers. But anyway, so yeah, we have a new version of it. But anyway.
But this conversation is making us think more about the process and when things are added and
makes a difference.
Why they might create a different product and the end outcome versus if you did it a different way.
Another thing that it could be, and this is something that I learned from Alton Brown in cooking, and that is alcohol-soluble flavors. So some things like tomatoes, if you put a tomato in the fridge, you shut off a lot of its flavor components and they don't come back on. That's interesting, but it has nothing to do with this. The other thing is that tomatoes are alcohol soluble, meaning they have flavor components that will only come out in the presence of alcohol. That's why a lot of time there's wine added to tomato sauce, okay? There's a good reason for it. But I'm thinking, like, back to shushen, we have a cider that now has alcohol in it. Maybe there's components in, maybe it's buckwheat honey specifically, I don't know, but in honey that are alcohol-soluble flavors that only come forth in the presence of alcohol. Even if it's going to be fermented, the flavors get produced and then it ferments further.
Yeah.
That's
I think
theory.
Another test that could be interesting to do based on the Shushen experiment is start with a mead and then add fruit
Make a nashush.
versus starting with fruit and then adding the honey.
We could make a nashush.
Doing those two different comparisons. Brian just likes to make words.
It's a backwards shushen. We make a mead and then ferment apple cider into it.
But you have to compare both spectrums. It doesn't necessarily have to be apples. It could be whatever we choose.
But I think there's so much to this, and it's a very interesting thing to me. I don't know anything about the way the nutrients works out or anything like that. That's honestly, it's a little beyond what our channel really does. We don't get into that kind of thing.
Right.
But it worked beautifully well in the shushen. It got to 15% or something like that. I don't remember. It's up there somewhere. Where is it? I don't even see it.
Many of our most recent videos that had fruit added to it, we started, if they were a melamel, a mead, we started making just a straight mead and then adding the fruit. And the reason why we did this was because we were using the big brain, and
as opposed to the little brain?
If we had alcohol already present because we made a mead, then adding fruit, we would limit any bad things happening. So the alcohol is going to be a preservative and not allow mold and stuff to happen.
But that still goes along with my idea that the alcohol is releasing alcohol-soluble flavors in the fruit.
But Shushen is reversed that.
Yeah.
We made the fruit first. So we just used juice, which took care of some of those problems of the fruit floating on the top and creating a mold situation. And then we added the honey to that already alcoholic juice base.
Right.
So maybe it's going to make a flavor difference on what base you use.
I think it would.
And even if we decide that fruit first is a great combination, then there's the next step. If you can find a fruit juice of the fruit that you're choosing, ferment that first, add your honey, ferment that, then add more fruit at the end.
That's awesome. But I was even thinking like a piment. If you took grape juice, fermented the grape juice to make a wine, and now you step feed that with honey.
Sure.
Technically, that would still be a piment, in my opinion, because you are fermenting. But you see, that's where it gets sticky.
Do they have to be together?
They have to be together.
Or do they have to be together in the same vessel? Like,
I'm not even talking about quantities here, because when it comes to cysers, piments, and a lot of these other things, like even acer glens, the quantity of fermentables, I mean, here's the thing. If it tastes like mead, it's mead. If it doesn't taste like mead, I wouldn't call it mead. But
what does mead taste like?
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm getting a headache just thinking about all this. But I like the idea of playing with the juice of the fruit, then adding the honey to make it a mead, and then that's really interesting. And that gives endless combinations too, because what if you used a different fruit juice versus a different fruit at the end to complement each other? Sure. Like, I think peach is one that would actually probably benefit from this the most. Peach juice fermented, from what I understand, probably won't taste very good.
But apricot
juice might. And then you add fresh peaches afterwards. End. Oh, that's so cool.
It's all these things that makes this hobby so interesting and so much fun and exciting, because even if you've made the same thing before, there are variations on that theme, and those variations have variations, which have variations, which have variations. So you can make 100 gajillion peach meads and have each one taste unique and different.
It's funny. I heard someone say that every combination of flavors has been tried in brewing. And if that was true, I just don't understand where that comes from. I mean, think about cooking. If that was true in cooking too, because it should be true in cooking if it's true in brewing.
Sure.
Why are people still making cooking shows and cookbooks? Why are people still making videos showing how to make stuff if everything's been done?
Sure.
I'm not a fan of stuff like that. I think you can always come up with a new way to do things. And the cider, Cyser Chouchen makes that so true, because they're just variations on a theme. You could even take the shushen a step further and add apples to it at the end, like we were just talking about. And then you could spice it, and then you could oak it. And then, to say that it's all been done, no, it hasn't. Because Now do that with a different honey.
Yep.
Do it with different kind of apples. Now do it at a different ABV. Now make it sparkling.
Apples. Add cranberries.
There's so many variations here. I mean, come on. So we always encourage experimentation, and our show is all about experimentation in reality. We don't test things 15,000 times before we make a video. We show you the trials and tribulations and the fails and foibles as we're going.
That's right. It's full transparency. And that's why we rate them, even though it's kind of funny and tongue-in-cheek. It's still to give you a concept of, oh, we really liked it.
This didn't.
because of this. Or there's something off and it's because of this.
Well, there's also this point too. Just because we didn't like it doesn't mean you might not.
Yeah.
And that's an important aspect that I think gets missed a lot of the time is people don't realize, like, we're not only going to show all the stuff that we loved, we're going to show you the stuff that we didn't like too. And our tasting room show, we show stuff that we don't like a lot. Not just stuff we made, just stuff in general that we don't like.
Words, ways that we can express what we're experiencing so that way you can make your own judgment of whether it would be right for you or not is important. And so that number is just kind of like a...
Yeah, the number is arbitrary.
It's really the descriptors and the words that we're using of the different flavors, the different aromas that we're getting, so that way you can decide, oh, I really like that kind of thing, so this is going to work for me.
Just adding on to the we show you everything. If we only showed you successful brews and then we rated them, how would you know what was good and what wasn't? Because everything should be good if they were all successful and everything was perfect, right? So I feel that by showing you the full spectrum, now, once you've watched some of our shows, you kind of get a feel for how we do things and you'll know this is going to be good or this is not going to be good. Every once in a while, though, we get thrown a curveball and we are shocked at something that turned out like mushroom garlic mead. Actually wasn't bad. I mean, I'm not going to say it was good, but it wasn't bad. I was expecting to have spittoons next to the studio.
But bringing it back to the topic at hand, shushen was another one that we weren't anticipating we were going to enjoy because we didn't particularly like fermented buckwheat honey.
Yeah.
But if you haven't seen our shushen video, I'll make sure to link it in the description below. Watch it.
It was a roller coaster ride too.
And see if this is something that's interesting to you. If you don't want to do a shushen, you can use that process and change it up with a different honey or a different juice.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have any questions about the difference between cider, cyser, and shushen, or other ideas for ways to change up that whole system, let us know in the comments below. I do try to get to every comment that we see. Obviously, sometimes they slip through the cracks, but I try. I try to get to everybody. If you have a question, we want to help. That's what the comment section is for. Because without you, and without the interaction from you, we don't have a channel. And that's important to us. As always, guys, thanks so much for listening and have a great day.
Bye-bye.